Something that's been kind of bothering me for a while now is how people treat like Batman's retirement. They'll either have him die or end up with Catwoman or something. And I only think that there's really like one clear answer. And today we're going to find out what that is. Batman is probably my favorite fictional character of all time. And I would make an argument for one of the best. Batman is Batman. He is the end-all, be-all superhero, maybe Spider-Man, and then now Superman's kind of coming up there. But those are the big three, and Batman is definitely the most popular. Again, small argument for Spider-Man, but I think we can all admit that Batman is Batman. He has his mission, he has his goal, and he lets nothing stand in the way of it, really. He'll have problems with, like, his Bruce Wayne side of things, or he'll have to make a difficult choice. But at the end of the day, everything that is enforcing all of Bruce's decisions is being Batman. Mask of the Phantasm is considered one of the best Batman movies of all time, if not the best, because of how it deals with Bruce's choices. In that movie, Bruce is fully decided he's going to be Batman. Or he doesn't know if it's Batman yet or what he's going to be, but he knows that he's going to fight crime. He's been training his whole life for this. And then he meets Andrea. And that changes things for him. He doesn't know if he wants to be Batman. He doesn't have to be. He doesn't feel the pain anymore. And you have that great scene at the Wayne's grave where that's what he's telling them. He's like, I didn't plan on being happy, and it doesn't hurt as bad anymore. I don't know if I want to do this. And he feels like he doesn't have to be Batman. But then the movie goes on, and Andrea has to leave. She gives Bruce back his ring. She was like the one thing that was holding him together. She leaves, that's all there is. Bruce is gone. He's decided on this. This is all he's got, and now he's Batman. And you have that another fantastic scene from the movie where he puts on the mask and Alfred backs up and he's scared. That's all that's there now. And it's not like a sad thing. It is like on paper, but after that point, Batman, he doesn't complain that he has to be Batman. You get that later on in the series when he's talking to Robin.
Sooner or later, I'll go down. It might be the Joker, or Two-Face, or just some punk who gets lucky. My decision. No regrets.
He knows this is what it's going to be, and he's completely okay with that. And that's what the best interpretations of Batman do, right? I don't love the Ben Affleck portrayal personally, but we can all agree that the scene in The Flash when he's talking to Barry, he's saying you can't change your past, and Barry says,
your tragedy made you a hero.
And Bruce responds,
And also made me alone.
And I love that line because like there's a hint of sadness in his voice because Bruce doesn't like that he's alone, obviously, but he knows that the second he chose to become Batman, that's what his life was going to be like, and he doesn't regret that choice at all. And now, if you move to Chris Nolan's version of Batman, which is a great interpretation of the character, at the end of Batman Begins, you have the scene with Rachel, where it seems like he's going to be Batman, and the tragedy of his crusade is that he won't be able to be with Rachel. Then you go into The Dark Knight, and that's kind of Bruce's whole character arc, is that he's trying to get away from Batman. And I think it works in the Dark Knight trilogy. It makes sense. But that was a version of the character that wasn't fully invested in Batman. Batman Begins, he definitely is. Dark Knight, he's actually trying to ditch the character. And it seems that at the end of the Dark Knight, he kind of has to relearn this is what he has to do when he makes the sacrifice. In Dark Knight Rises, he's like retired. And that's okay because like, you know, it would make things a lot more difficult for Bruce if he was being hunted by everybody. So like, I'm fine with him going into retirement. But like, you could have had such a great story if he was still Batman. That version of Bruce, he does get the happy ending. He gets to go off into the sun. He gets to make his second sacrifice. He gets to live happily with Selina. For a version of the character that never was like 100% on board with the whole Batman idea, it makes sense that he does get to leave it behind. But that's not my mind's eye version of how I think Batman's story should end. Batman's not Superman or Spider-Man. most of their stories involve them conflicting over Clark Kent and Superman or Peter Parker and Spider-Man. They have problems that come from their alter egos. Not to say that Batman doesn't, but he does have the drive and the knowledge to know that Batman comes first, and he's always going to choose that over everything else. So when you do get to see Peter Parker get with Mary Jane, have a kid, have a happy life, it makes you feel good because, one, Peter Parker's kind of notorious for having a bad life and having a lot of things go wrong for him. So when you see him have his happy ending, it makes you feel good because most of his stories revolve around that conflict. So when Insomniac's version of Spider-Man, when he kind of passes the mantle down to Miles at the end, it makes sense because, like, most of his conflicts have revolved around the responsibility and the choices he makes. So passing it down to Miles, giving Pete a little bit of a break, that makes complete sense. But with Batman, once he put that cowl on for the first time, he became Batman, even to the point where he thinks of himself as Batman in that great scene in Batman Beyond. And I think that's so much of the appeal of the character. He knows that he might not get to have the happy ending. He's going to give everything he has to his mission, and he knows that, and he's okay with it. That's who he is. And that's why, with Batman Beyond, I think that's the best version of showing the retirement of the character of Batman. Bruce ends up alone. He's still helping Gotham City with the Wayne Corporation. He's still involved with that, but he can't be Batman anymore. He's too old. He's gone through too much. And that's what makes the character of Terry McGinnis so great, is he has all the youth and he has the drive of, he knows that he wasn't a great kid, so he wants to improve his city and he wants to make amends for things, and he feels like he's making a difference. But then he has the brain of Bruce, who's the guy in the chair, basically. And together, they can help their city. They both have their missions, and Bruce is continuing to do his, even in his late 70s, when he physically can't do it. And something I love in Justice League Unlimited, when you get the epilogue episode, I love that they don't show Bruce die of old age. They show him in his 90s. And he's still kicking after all the beatings he's taken over the years. And it looks like he's still helping Terry out. Like, until he dies, he's going to be Batman. And he's going to do the best he can. And that's what I love about this version of the character and how they show his story end. I think that's where his story doesn't really end. It's a never-ending battle for justice. But please let me know down below which is your favorite version of Batman's retirement. See you next time.